What's that? Who there? Whoa.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of health practices that people are gonna have to unwind from the last 12 months of just 16 hours on
Yeah,
the screen.
right.
Yeah, at least you're getting that fresh mountain air though. That's gotta count for something.
Yes, I have to say the air quality has been nice, and also the elevation. It forces your heart to work a little harder.
Yeah, totally. All right, so last section here, and we can just take it however you want. And it's it's the My First Million inspired brainstorm. So I think the biggest thing that I love to get in with founders is if Italic or NotPod didn't exist today, and let's say you couldn't tackle that exact same space, what's one idea or one other business that really interests you that you would go after as an operator?
Um, Man, I feel like I should have prepared for this. I think it depends. I think if you were first starting out, if let's say you were like a third time founder and you were like, I'm not saying this is me, but let's say you're like a third time founder and you're like super successful, investors are throwing money at you. Like, I think what I would suggest there is very different than what I would suggest in to a first time founder who doesn't have that reputation or like that resume and just like wants to get going. Um, and I think to the latter, the easiest recommendation I would give there is like if you want to do like a lifestyle business or one where you want to run a side hobby until you like generate enough cash flow to it to either raise money or go out on your own and bootstrap it. I think like I think that if you are tech, technically savvy, I think one of the best opportunities nowadays is to build small verticalized software for niche industries. And I think one example of that is like building scheduling software for like pool maintenance or building or the same thing for like lawn mowing or what or I give you a lot of examples there, but I think like if you go down the route of like trying to generate cash flow from software, I think that's a really great place to be operating in. And I think about that a lot. I think if you're trying to like settle down and have a good lifestyle, Katie and I have thought about a lot of like we lived in China for a year when we were starting in Italic, and like there are all these really really cool things over in Asia that don't exist in the States today. One example is like they have these chains of like fruit stores, which if you think about it, it's like a very obvious idea. Just think of like a really nice like Sweet Green branded like fruit store, and I think like the margins are high, like you can command a lot of loyalty there, high frequency use case. And I think that could be really interesting. And I think that's one like, hey, if I get later on in life and I'm bored, like that could be really interesting to take on. I think from a large scale like venture, you could go the deep tech route. I'm just spitballing here. If you want to pause me at any point, I think I've been thinking about this. I think I was listening to one guy I look up to a lot is Ryan Peterson from Flexport, and I think like what they've built is really cool from a freight kind of brokerage model where they made booking freight. It's not to say they made it easier, but I think they've digitized the experience a lot. I think there's a lot of opportunity for similar models in other areas of the supply chain. So, I think I mentioned on the My First Millions podcast where I think cold chain logistics right now is like a very obviously like that's a deep supply chain model. Like you have to be into that type of stuff if you want to do this, or you just want to make money. But that's a great place to be working right now. I think if you wanted to do like some crazy stuff, I think like space right now people are finally investing in, which is crazy. But I think more importantly, I think like on the supply chain side, there's a lot of cross-border services. I mean, I think about this from an Italic standpoint all the time. We have to build a lot of our tooling, from scratch simply because the cross-border fulfillment experience is like so poor. And this is actually, I mean, this is how Apple fulfills like MacBooks to you. They like produce it in China. They will ship it from China to you, as opposed to going through a warehouse, and that bypasses duties and tariffs, which is great. But more importantly, it allows them to keep like very small inventories, and also like have similar fulfillment times. And you're willing to wait like 7 to 10 days. So I think there's a lot of like interesting things on the cross border fulfillment side that Italic might actually dive into one day. I don't know. I have a lot of things. I could pull up a list if you wanted to, but I want to be if there was anything there that was interesting, I could dive in.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it makes sense, right? The two big things, the verticalized software, I think I've heard you mention that before, and some other people have talked about that, and it's just an endless amount of possibilities because there's so
Totally.
many niches that are so uh, analog, like they're not digitized at all. None of the pieces of it are digitized. So if you just tackle one for one niche, I think what people forget is how, if you scale that across the U.S., there's so many, like you talked about lawn care. There are so many small
Yeah,
1 to 10
right.
person lawn care companies that would just die to have some of this software. And so you really don't need to build $1 billion business in some of these niche software categories to really make a difference. So that one resonated for sure.
Yeah, I think another thing is, I think in the past, a lot of the whole like there was a stigma with anything in China, right? Like, it's like, oh, they're just going to copy like whatever you do. But now, if you look there, I mean, not many founders are doing this, which is kind of crazy to me. But they have some like really, really interesting like business models that I've never seen in the States yet. I mean, the hottest of which right now is like community group buying, where like you have these, moms and these like, these communities that will basically like buy groceries in mass for the entire community and like get a discount that way. I think like the
Like
whole
Pinduoduo.
kind of, yeah. Pinduoduo has like done that to a degree. There's like I think Pinduoduo's like group buying. They were like group buying from in the past 5 years, and then like in the past 2 years or so, there was like this new community group buying, which is a lot more intense. Like where someone physically has to like go and kind of deliver all the remaining packages to the community. That's like one example. There's a lot more. Um, I think like one other thing. I think, sorry, I pulled up my I pulled up the idea list. Um, Convenience. Did I talk about the convenience store roll up? I think I did. Zoodle shop. I think like doing a sweet green type of model again with like keto paleo friendly noodles in like a quick service restaurant style would be really interesting. And I think you could scale that actually. I think MLMs again have a really bad reputation, and mostly for a good reason. But I think the sales model itself actually has a lot of legs where if you can get, and I don't think it has to be nefarious where you have to sell like crappy products, but I think like there is a way to deploy that, whether that's in selling software. I mean, you have this in like inside sales, right? Where there's like a lot of commission layers in sales teams. I think there could be interesting way. I think there's actually a lot of interesting software that could be built there, where it could be applied to a more general use case as opposed to like sketchy products. Um, Ordering via QR codes, like I think but someone's doing this. I forgot who it was, but right now like QR codes are just menus in China. Like they're menus, point of sale, cash collect. It's like an end-to-end kind of restaurant solution. You don't even need waiters in most Chinese restaurants. Um, yeah, I'll pause there. I know we're kind of getting at time, but there's a lot. There's a lot.